You know, there's a new poll out that shows that this projected Democrat blue wave, this imaginary Democrat blue wave, is suddenly receding. Not so much, you know. And I know that the left, especially the hard left, the base of the Democrat Party, thinks this is because of Trump and the evil of Trump and the corruption of Trump. It's because of leftism. It's because of them. It's because of the base of the Democrat Party. The problem they have, you know, I believe leftism is a wrong per se, a wrong in and of itself. I believe that it is wrong to take people's property away. I believe it's wrong to curtail their freedom beyond what you need to do to protect other people's freedom. I believe this leftism is morally wrong per se. But the other thing about leftism is it doesn't work because it has no real sense of human nature. And that means we can see in front of our eyes what happens to the places that leftists control. We can see leftism in operation, and it's not working, and it does terrible things. This new poll, I mean, it's an amazing new poll. It's released on Monday from a left-leaning news publication, Reuters. It showed that Democrats are paying dearly for their disastrous week last week, where they lied about President Trump's comments regarding violent MS-13 gang members. But I think it's more than that. I think that is what leftism makes them do. The Reuters poll revealed that the double-digit lead that the Democrats held over Republicans last month in generic ballot voting for the 2018 midterms among registered voters is now completely gone, and Republicans are now in the lead for the first time in this generic poll. Recent polls have also shown that Republicans could win up to 9 seats in the Senate, and the millennials are leaving the Democratic Party in droves. And again, they think the problem is Trump, but the problem is leftism. We can see what it does. We can see what it does, turns countries into, like Venezuela. We can see what it does to cities like LA and San Francisco and Chicago, which are now cesspits, Portland, because of leftism. But also we can see what it does to them, to human beings. This thing with Tomi Lahren. Tomi Lahren is this kind of blonde, good-looking firebrand on Fox, and she's always, she's a provocateur, kind of in the Ann Coulter mode. She's in a rooftop restaurant in Minnesota, and she's with her mom and dad, and somebody just starts screaming obscenities. A couple of people started screaming obscenities with her. She got into it a little bit with them, and as she's walking out, there's a little video of somebody just tossing water at Tomi as she's walking out the door. Unbelievable. Even worse. They put this out on Twitter, and all these people on Twitter are going, yeah, that's it. That's the way I would do the same thing. She has no right to hate. It's hate. Well, let's listen to her response. She was on Fox News, and Tomi responded.
This was something that was embarrassing for me and embarrassing for my family. At the end of the day, I'm a person too, and I do get humiliated and embarrassed just like anyone else, but I'm tough. My family's tough. We can handle it. I think that those that threw the water and that were applauding and laughing about it wanted to get their 15 minutes of fame by making a video of me. I think looking back, those are the people that are going to be embarrassed by their actions. I think their parents raised them better. And furthermore, you don't have to like me. You don't have to agree with my political opinions, but you don't have the right to throw things at me.
So they put this up, and a lot of people are screaming, are congratulating the people who did this to her, screaming the obscenities and throwing the water, including Kathy Griffin, who said, it's not cool. It's not cool to take physical action. But look what leftism did to Kathy Griffin. See, we see what it does to people. I'm just talking about the practicality of it. I'm not even talking about the morality of leftism. I'm talking about the practicality of it, what it does to Venezuela, countries like Venezuela and Russia, what it does to cities like Chicago and San Francisco, and what it does to human beings and turns them into that. Why? Because leftism, the thing about leftism is once we know that it doesn't work, we realize it's never about the problem. It's about how it makes the problem solver feel. It's about the problem. You ever notice when people leftists start talking about blacks and the problems in black communities and the crime, they always end up talking about whites. It's always about, it's white privilege and white policemen and white this and white that. It's never about the actual people who have the problem. It's always about other people. And why? Because leftism is actually about how it makes white people feel. It's not about solving problems for black people. If it were just about solving problems for black people, white people would be for it, right? We don't want problems in the black community. White people are sitting around going, yeah, I'd like there to be crime in Chicago. Nobody's thinking that. Nobody's thinking that. So it always comes down to the white people, because what it does is it makes you feel, it confers on you a sense of righteousness, a sense of virtue, a sense that you're doing these things for people. And when it doesn't work and somebody says it's not working, you lose that. You lose that sense of righteousness. And that's why who attacks a woman like that in a restaurant for her opinions? Who does that? You have to be a degraded human being to do that. And it's leftism that makes people degraded. If you look in the mirror, if you're tweeting, yeah, go ahead, that's what I would have done. Look in the mirror. When a philosophy does that to you, when a philosophy turns you into that, change your philosophy. Basic rule of life. Change your philosophy if it turns you into that, right? Have you noticed if you go on Twitter, there are, I'm on a guess, thousands of people who say, I've taken the red pill and I used to be a liberal, like me, I used to be a liberal, but now I'm a conservative. There's nobody. You can't find anybody who used to be a conservative and became a liberal, because conservatism is ennobling. We get in a lot of arguments. I'll call them arguments, but they're not hostile arguments. We get a lot of arguments here at the Daily Wire. Ben will see something one way and I'll see it another, and we don't care what Knowles thinks, but he has an opinion too. And we're all into it and yelling at each other, but we all change our opinions. Nobody ever says, oh yeah, you were right. But we do change our opinions when we hear something, that makes sense and all this. That's ennobling. Makes you grow. That makes you better. You are thinking. We do remember, I started out obviously very much against Donald Trump during the primaries. I haven't changed my opinion about him as a person, but I see that no matter what kind of person he is, he's doing a great job as president. Why don't I care that he's a bad person or that he's done bad things? Because my problem is the country. That's what I care about. I'm not here about myself. I'm not here to feel righteous. I'm not here to feel like a good person. I'm a Christian. I already know I'm not a good person. I already know I suck, right? that comes with the religion. That's the first thing on the religion. Not a lot of people know that. So they think it's like, we believe in one God or something like that. No, it's I suck. That's the first thing it says. So I don't have that sense of righteousness. And conservatism also makes the world better. What I'm saying here is that it's not about people. And this is another thing that leftism does to people. It makes them, because the actual ideas don't work, they have to glorify the human beings. We don't have to do that. I can say to you, I don't really like Donald Trump very much as a human being. I can say that because we agree that the point is the principle, the point is the country. The thing that we want is the freedom. The freedom is going to be here after Donald Trump is gone. It was here before Trump got here. It'll be here after he's gone. It's the freedom we're trying to preserve, this unique idea that we, the individual, is really what the government is about. It's not about the government. So do you remember when Obama, I brought a couple of things, it's like show and tell. I brought a couple of things into work just to remind you of what it was like when Obama was running for president, and it was like the second coming, right? They had that thing, this thing actually turned my stomach, and not because of these poor children, it's not their fault, but where they had these little kids come out and sing the Obama song. Play this again to remind people.
We're gonna spread happiness, we're gonna spread freedom. Obama's gonna change it, Obama's gonna lead 'em. We're gonna change it and rearrange it. We're gonna change the world. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Lift each other. Yes, we can lift each other.
So, to me, using children like that for a political candidate and convincing them that their ideals are connected to this human being. One of the things the Bible says is put not your faith in princes or in any human being that cannot save you. To teach these children that their ideals, which are good, freedom and a better world and all these things, all kids should believe in those things, but to teach them that their ideals are tied to a human being. Who else thought this? Obama thought it. We have cut number 9. Just remember this speech that he made after he won.
Generations from now, we will be able to look back and tell our children that this was the moment when we began to provide care for the sick and good jobs to the jobless. This was the moment when the rise of the oceans began to slow and our planet began to heal.
You know, the New York Times, a former newspaper, has a story today. Deep in the desert, Iran quietly is advancing its missile technology. And I read that and I thought, but that can't be right, because that would mean that Barack Obama was a gormless buffoon. You know, it's like he was he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know what he was doing, and he was a leftist, and leftism doesn't work. And so they're furious. It corrupted the press as they protected him from the truth. You know, when your enemy is reality, the price of the battle is your soul. You lose your soul because you're fighting reality. You have to accept reality first. I mean, it's one of the reasons, like, I don't really like the welfare state, but I think the welfare state has helped to preserve capitalism. And so I think, all right, a little bit of welfare state, we got to cut it back and keep it down. But it's actually worked against the logic of socialism. It actually saved capitalism from socialism. Okay, I'll make that compromise. I'm not an absolutist in any way. But guys, you know, the base of the Democrat Party is saying to the Democrats, resist, 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 Trump, Trump, Trump. But really what they should be resisting is the base of the Democrat Party, because they're the problem. They make it easy on Trump. You know, Trump went to Planned Parenthood, gave a speech at Planned Parenthood, I think it was yesterday, and maybe the day before. But he's cutting back, you know, there's this Title X, Title 10 family planning program, which was established to send government funds to family planning agencies, but not to fund abortion. But it goes to Planned Parenthood because they pretend they have other family planning roles instead of abortion, which is very dubious assertion, but they say they do. And they say, well, this money doesn't go to fund our abortions. But of course, money is fungible, right? It doesn't matter. If you give it to me here, I can use it there. I'm not going to say I'm not going to spend that money there. How do you know which dollar it is that's going into this stuff? So Trump is saying we're going to cut this back. And of course, I think this is a tremendous thing. And he goes out and he starts to rip on the Democrats at this speech before Planned Parenthood. He's celebrating the fact, which is true, that this is a very anti-abortion, a pro-life administration. And he goes after the Democrats on abortion. Listen to what he says. It's cut number 3.
The House just passed the bill, but Democrats in the Senate are doing everything within their power to block it, although some are actually on our side, but they are working overtime to block it. So the story is 18 midterms. We need Republicans, and that will happen. On this issue, like so many other issues, the Democratic Party is far outside the American mainstream. Far outside. The United States is one of only 7 countries in the world to allow elective abortions after 20 weeks, when unborn babies can truly feel the pain. Yet, Democratic senators like John Tester, Heidi Heitkamp, Claire McCaskill, Debbie Stabenow, all voted against the 20-week bill and in favor of late-term abortion.
See, we're talking about, this is so brilliant because all the press does is try to make people feel that that's not a mainstream, but what he's saying is not mainstream, and he's turning it on his head. The thing is, we can see what leftism turns people into. At 18 weeks, with those, what do they call, ultrasound things, you can see a baby in the womb smiling, you can see it clapping, you can see it sucking its thumb, okay? At 20 weeks, he's right. At 20 weeks, a baby feels the pain when you murder it, when you assassinate it. So, you know, what kind of person supports that? What kind of person? You know, it's kind of like the thing with the MS-13 people, where they're sitting around talking about the spark of divinity in a MS-13 gang member, and you think, like, hey, what kind of person is doing that? And part of that is just reaction to Trump, but part of it is leftism failing and making people defend the failure. That makes them defend the failure. The rule of law. I mean, this is so basic. The rule of law. Just saying, hey, we make the laws and then we have to obey the laws. And if we don't like the laws, we change the laws. You know, Thomas Homan, who's the acting director of ICE, you know, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, he goes up before Congress, and from California, one of our own, or the lovely Congresswoman Nanette Barragan, she calls them anti-immigrant. She says, the ICE is anti-immigrant. Listen to what Thomas Homan says, because I've been making this point for a long time.
First of all, no one on this panel is anti-immigrant. We're law enforcement officers to enforce the law that you all enacted. So to sit there and say that we're anti-immigrants is wrong. We are enforcing laws. If you think it's okay to enter this country legally and they shouldn't be arrested, that's just wrong. The laws clearly state enter the country legally is a crime. And no one's up here saying all illegal aliens are criminals. A certain percentage of them are criminals. They commit yet another offense after they're here. I've said many times, I certainly understand the plight of these people, and I feel bad for some of these people, but I have a job to do. I have to enforce law and uphold the oath that I took to enact the laws enacted by you, Congress.
See, that virtue signaling, that thing that leftism gives you the sense of righteousness and virtue, falls apart when you look at the logic of the fact that they passed the laws, and now they're telling us, oh yeah, wait, you don't want to obey that one. It's only the laws that make us feel good about ourselves that we should obey. Change the law. Go in and change the law. Make your arguments. Go before the people. You're the people's representatives. Change the law. You know, we went through this in the 70s. I'm sure most of you don't remember this, but we went through this in the 70s when our cities became cesspits and our crime skyrocketed, and the streets were filthy and people were lying. And it's going to happen again. We can see it happening again in cities like San Francisco. I have friends who just got back from Portland, Oregon. They said they now have a right to rest law where you can sleep on the verge beside the sidewalk. So outside your home is a homeless guy sleeping on the street. That's what New York used to look like during the leftist 70s. We saw it already. We can see it with our own eyes. This is the problem they have. That's why their press is so important, because they think they can cover it up, but they can't cover it up forever, and they can't cover it up if the president is talking about it. We can see with our eyes what leftism is. We don't like it, and that's the problem they have in the midterms. It's not Donald Trump. It's not they're not resisting enough. They're normalizing Donald Trump. It's none of that. It's their base believing in the principles that cause cities and countries and human beings to become degraded.